This week's guest is a PCOS advocate, women's health coach, and entrepreneur. After years of being told that her debilitating symptoms were simply in her head or completely normal, she finally got answers. Determined to support other women on their journey, she created an evidence-based coaching app and hormone-supportive teas. Ready to share her story as a woman and a mother, please welcome Keisha Sethi. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on. It is lovely to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here.
Wow, you have an incredible story and you also have some incredible businesses and real entrepreneurial spirit that I cannot wait to delve into.
Thank you.
Because what you've taken from your story and the real kind of difficulties that you've been through and what you're doing now is amazing.
Thank you.
So let's get started with your story if we can. You were diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yep.
How was your kind of early symptom, pre-diagnosis life? What did that look like? What were the symptoms like?
Yeah, great question, and thank you so much. Right, there's so much to unpack here.
We have plenty of time.
Plenty of time, that's good. So I was first diagnosed with PCOS when I was in year 5.
Year 5?
Well, no, sorry, that's when the symptoms started. I was diagnosed when I was in year 6, so about a year later. But my symptoms consisted of excessive hair growth, and that was the first thing that my mum noticed. My mum's a South Asian woman. I come from South Asian background, but I have never seen my mum experience, or anyone in my family experience, the level of excessive hair growth I started noticing.
Okay.
In year 5, that's the year when you start going for swimming lessons, right?
Oh my God, yes, it is.
So I would be going for swimming lessons, and I realised I was feeling so feeling so conscious in my body, in my physique, in my skin, because we would be getting changed for swimming, and I would be looking at other students who are my friends and feeling like, oh, why does my skin look different? Why am I breaking out in acne all over my legs, all over my back, all over my face?
Wow.
And everyone else just seems so, so normal at the time. I did find it very heavy to process.
Yeah.
And because I never saw that in my family either, in my mum definitely saw it as quite a red flag. I also got my period when I was 10 years old.
I was about to ask when your period started kind of in relation to all those symptoms.
It was when I was 10 years old. So I believe, I think that is year 5.
Yeah, no, it is.
So that's when it all started. Gosh, I can't believe how many years it's been, because I think the emotions, you can probably tell from my voice, but they still feel raw to me.
Yeah, it is really raw though, right?
It
it's
is
so close to your heart.
Exactly. And now I've got a little girl, and I think even though she's going to be 2 in September, I talk to her and I fill her with so much confidence and so much excitement about the way she looks and the way she feels. And I just wish that I had that then, because I think I kept it so isolated within myself and built up so many thoughts. I was also losing my hair at that age.
Wow, so you had excessive hair growth.
Excessive hair growth, but losing hair on my head.
But losing your own hair.
Exactly. And being a South Asian woman, from the moment, you're young, your grandma's sitting there and oiling your hair, and you get told at the hairdressers, wow, your hair is so thick, it's so luscious. And I started noticing when I'd go to the hairdressers, and this is something actually, it's just coming to my head now, but I haven't spoken about before, but I'd go to the hairdressers, and initially they would say, wow, to my mum, wow, your daughter's got such thick hair, such beautiful hair. And I remember the same hairdresser I'd used to go to slowly started saying, oh, but her hair's seeming thinner. It seems a lot thinner. And I'd hear that because I knew it was getting thinner.
Yeah.
But I just didn't understand it at that point. My period started when I was 10, but then it just disappeared, that as PCOS does.
Yeah, so how long, did you have many cycles or kind of months?
I think I must have had like 1 or 2.
Really? And then it just stopped?
And then it just stopped. Where PCOS doesn't actually trigger painful periods, I did experience and do remember my periods being very painful.
When you were actually bleeding and menstruating?
When I was actually bleeding and menstruating. Now, it could be one or two things. It could be I wasn't familiar with that territory. Of course, it's my first few periods.
Yeah.
But 2, it was painful to the point that I would faint. And so my mum definitely saw that as a red flag. She took me to the doctors.
Okay.
When I went to the doctors said that I would just grow out of it. Now, that wasn't a response that we wanted to hear.
No, unfortunately, I imagine it's quite a common response as well. You're too, I think I remember that, you're too young to have anything wrong with you.
Yes.
It's a common one.
Yes, exactly. And there wasn't much investigation into it. my family and I, we used to travel back to Mumbai every single year.
Okay.
So over there, healthcare is a little bit different. Obviously, you know, you pay. If you want to get blood tests done, you pay and you just book it, and then you'll get all those bloods done. You want to get a scan done,
Oh,
you pay and you just book
really?
it. Yeah.
Okay.
So my mum took me to go and see a doctor there. They got my bloods done. They got scans done over there too. And they said, okay, she has polycystic ovaries. Even at that point, even in India, they told my mum to put me on the pill. And at that point, I remember hearing, because it was like a little consultation office, and they told my mum that she probably wouldn't be able to have kids. In South Asian culture, that is a big thing. I think that's a big thing for anyone, but that was a big thing to hear at that age. However, I remember just shoving all of that information to the back of my head because there was no real solution given.
Yeah.
Aside from the pill, which my mum, being of South Asian heritage, or just, I don't know, maybe being a mum in that generation, she was like, no, the pill means that you're going to start having sex.
And obviously, I don't know really anything about this culture. So tell me, so I imagine, am I right in thinking that is a very, very not okay thing to be thinking about a young woman? Is it that age? Is it before marriage?
I think it's that age before marriage, you know, and the culture too, or at least in my family. Now, I can't speak of all households, but I know that this was a big thing in my household.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these conversations were very taboo as well, which is one thing that I'm very happy that we can talk about so openly, because these conversations shouldn't be taboo. They are real life.
Yeah.
Periods, you know, getting your periods early, acne, sex, fertility, all these things should be so openly spoken about. But I remember back then it was like, right, got this diagnosis now, let's not talk about it ever again.
And what was that, the message from medical professionals and family, or one or the other?
I think that was mainly from family. I feel like nothing came of it afterwards. I did come and see the GPs back here afterwards when we got back to the UK, and they said, right, there's only one thing you can do is go on the pill. So go on the pill, stop eating Indian food. That was another thing.
What?
Yep.
A doctor said that to you?
Yep. Because and I realize now how wrong that was, because I couldn't stop eating Indian food. It was the food we ate. You know,
that's like saying to someone,
exactly.
That's like saying to me, stop eating food.
Exactly. It's like saying stop eating food. That's exactly how it felt.
What it is.
I remember I did go through a phase after my diagnosis where I must have been like 11, 12, where I was hyper conscious of, you know, carbohydrates and potatoes, and I love potatoes. And now that I think back to it, that 11, 12-year-old girl, she didn't have to overthink all of those things.
No, and they could have, sounds like you've moved forward milestones of your condition. You have what I imagine a much more positive relationship with it and everything you do now. But for another young girl of 11, 12 years old, to be told stop eating food or stop eating Indian food or whatever that GP said, which was completely out of line, that could have started a very tricky emotional mental health battle with food.
Exactly. And I see this with a lot of clients. I mean, I've experienced it myself where I've had a lot of food anxiety before through my diagnosis, through the years of trying to figure out, right, well, how do you manage PCOS? And I see this in a lot of clients, and I do work with clients who are a lot younger too. And it is a lot about reframing your thought process and actually seeing food as such a positive in our day to day. I mean, it brings people together. It's absolutely delicious. And there's so many benefits, you know, your energy levels, your androgens, even your hormonal health, your cycles. So I definitely think that conversation could have been handled differently.
Yeah.
However, upon reflection, if it was handled differently, maybe I wouldn't have had that drive to learn and create what I have now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you became, because you were very young, like you say, as you became a teenager and then kind of a young adolescent, how did this journey with PCOS develop then? Because I'm right in thinking the pill was not an option at that point.
Yeah.
So what was happening for you?
So the pill wasn't an option at that point. Actually, exactly as I said to you, I put everything back on the back burner. I did not focus on my PCOS one bit. I think I went through many years of just going with it, you know, popping acne spots on my face. I remember having really bad acne all over my back. I never knew what to do, but I would be extremely self-conscious to wear like the PE outfits that might have, you know, the short sleeve, and then you wear your PE shorts in the summer. And I would wear my jogging bottoms, the thick navy blue, I still remember them, the thick navy blue jogging bottoms, because I would be so nervous to show my skin. It took a few years of, you know, ignoring my symptoms to then be like, okay, cool, like, let's go on the pill. I did hide it from my mum. So I didn't go to my GP because I thought that they would tell my mum. I went to one of those walk-in clinics, and I would go every few weeks, get a new set of pills. I did also have like my first high school boyfriend at the time. So I thought, right, let me get on the pill. Thought it was cool. And let's also see how this manages my acne. Initially, it did actually help my acne. However, I felt a drastic change in my mood, my emotions. My hair loss was still very prominent.
What was your mood and your emotions? Like, did it go one of two ways or all over the shop?
It was a bit all over the place. I found myself being a lot more emotional than I know that I naturally am. And I also found myself being very, very sporadic with like decision making, and I knew I wasn't feeling like myself. I knew I had a bit of attitude at the time. Might also be just being a teenager. But yeah, so I stayed on the pill for quite a while actually, because it just became something I was used to. It was only until I then turned about 17, I was like, right, like, I don't like the way this is making me feel. I was putting on weight, which I now understand to be a lot of water retention, because I wasn't doing the things in my lifestyle that I could have been doing. I wasn't having enough protein. I wasn't taking care of my stress levels. Through my childhood, through my teenagehood, I also dropped out of school. There were certain living situations that put me under a lot of stress, which I think a lot of people don't talk about with PCOS as well. So when stress is something that isn't being managed, it can really affect the extent of PCOS symptoms that you will experience, I think, with anything. So at one point, when I dropped out of school, I was living in a shed, probably the size of this space. I didn't have a space to live. I then was basically hopping from sofa to sofa, but I did start working at this point. It was only until then I, you know, met my partner and I felt like I had some sort of stability, which then allowed me to say, okay, I'm ready to not be reliant on, you know, this 21-day pill. And really do some research into my health. Because the one thing that helped me, even when I was living in that small confined space, was exercise. And I didn't do that initially to manage my PCOS. I did that for my mental health.
Yes, it came because of a different reason. But just on that part of your life, I can't even begin to imagine the emotional turmoil that has on someone. Like, just as you, as a person, as a woman, as a young adult, and then with awful symptoms on top of that and a condition as a very complicated added layer. But tell me, was that the hardest part of your life? Was it one of them?
I think it's definitely up there. Definitely one of them. But I think with a lot of things, I always sit back to reflect and I say that I would not change anything. Everything in my belief is everything is laid out and happens for a specific reason. And if it wasn't for that, you know, now I'm the kind of person that I appreciate, you know, I remember it was such a small confined space, but now I'm the type of person that I will appreciate a room that's just like 10 meters bigger. Do you know what I mean?
It's giving you a different perspective, I imagine.
It gives you an incredible perspective, and I think also a certain level of empathy. You just never know what someone's going through. And I remember talking to my best friends. My best friends have been friends with me for 24 years now. We've been really good friends since like nursery. And one thing that they were saying to me is, Keisha, how come you never told us that you were going through this? Like, you would turn up to school. I was like, yeah, I would travel like an hour and a half to get to school at that point before I dropped out. I said, but I just didn't, because at that point, I never really saw any reason to tell anyone. I never saw any point of it. But one thing that definitely taught me is how to apply empathy to my clients now. And something I truly believe is one thing women with PCOS need is empathy and someone to listen.
Yeah.
So I work with clients and I get to know them, and it's not just about knowing their PCOS symptoms, it's about knowing their journey. What is their home life like?
Yeah.
What are their surroundings like? How can they take care of themselves? Being able to understand that and put myself in their shoes is something that situation taught me.
It's so important, isn't it? Because when we talk about any of these conditions like PCOS, endoadeno, PMDD, especially in a very restricted, underfunded, problematic, all the words to describe the NHS, there isn't space for those conversations.
Yeah.
I don't think the medical professionals, when they're in that education setting of uni or medical school, I don't think anyone is teaching or bringing into the curriculum, like, or not to the extent it should be, that element of looking at the holistic everything in someone's life, from financial, emotional, relationships, everything, to be part of that conversation. I'm not sure the training's there. And then we also haven't got a system that's built to include that in the conversation. So it just doesn't happen, does it? Like you say, you get given a prescription and that's it.
That's it. And I think not everything is so clear cut. I work with clients who are doctors. So they are my clients who are doctors, and as their, like, you know, day-to-day occupation, but they also need that level of holistic support on their PCOS journey. I think there is such a space for holistic and medicine to exist together.
Yeah.
And a big part that's lacking at the moment is that level of consideration and care. And it doesn't mean that, you know, now 15-minute appointments need to be an hour because you need to sit and talk to someone.
Yeah.
But I think the approach matters. The genuine question of, and I never ask someone how they are if I don't care. And I think genuinely being able to say, how are you? And then leaving the space for the person to actually respond with how they are truly feeling, instead of just saying, I'm fine while I'm experiencing this. And, you know, how are they really? What's going on in your personal life that could be affecting your symptoms or your sleep? Because people don't talk about how important improving your sleep quality is with PCOS.
Yeah. No, you're so right. It is. It becomes a reflex, doesn't it? It's the, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you? And it's just almost as quick as breathing. We don't even think about what the words we're saying, really.
Exactly.
So when, obviously, a very difficult time that you went through, and then, like you said, you met your partner and you started to feel safe enough in a different environment that you could come off the pill. How was that for you? Because if you've been on it for quite a long time, I imagine that was maybe a bit of a roller coaster.
That was hard. And I actually travelled during that time as well.
Oh, wow.
So it was hard to come off of the pill, to build back my relationship with food. I remember I travelled to Australia around the time that I decided to come off of the pill.
Okay.
And I broke out. I was feeling so lethargic. Like, jet lag was there.
Yeah.
But I only went for about a month. But I was exhausted all the time, even when I came back to the UK. It took me 8 months of building some sort of routine and focusing on basically doing a whole load of trial and error with my own PCOS.
Yeah.
I feel like I was my own guinea pig.
Yeah.
To be like, what is going to work for me? It took me about 8 months to get my period back, a real period, not just a pill-induced bleed.
Yeah.
When I got my period back, it took me a further 4 to 5 months to actually regulate that. So it really was about being consistent with myself, and also reminding myself along the way that surely if I'm eating better, if I'm moving a little bit more, if I'm taking care of my mental health, I'm not doing anything wrong. So if my cycle's going to come back, it will come back, but I've got to give myself time and grace.
Yes. We can't, I was talking to someone else about this, the fact that we put, whether they have a condition or not, but we put young women on the pill so early and so quickly during that puberty phase, and they're on it for such a long amount of time, that there's a huge amount of kind of shock, and almost like a shockwave now going through that generation of women that want to have children of, but I can't get pregnant and I don't have a period and my parents haven't come back. But we haven't explained to those women why that is and the impact of taking that contraception.
Exactly. And actually the work that you'll have to do to remind your body that it should feel safe to actually go ahead and have that period.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely takes quite a lot of work. It took me a lot of work. And then, you know, even through that, something that took me a while to recognize is how my stress levels will impact my cycle and whether or not it will be there this month. Because I had that regularity of coming off the pill, you know, for 7 days and then, my period's going to start.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like that. And it also taught me that, hey, like that bleed that I was having then, that wasn't, you know, my natural menstrual cycle.
Now, and so many women don't know this, do they?
Exactly.
Like, let's highlight that point. So
Exactly.
there's a difference, isn't there, between a period, like a contraception break period bleed,
Exactly.
and an actual menstrual bleed.
There's a difference. And I think also another thing, when you come off of the pill, something that you start experiencing is changes in your body. Like, you know, actually experiencing cervical mucus and what that means. No, you're not just going crazy and, you know, like, I don't know how much I can say on here, but yeah, your knickers are just not getting wet. Like,
you can literally say whatever you want. TMI is not a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It shouldn't be, right?
It shouldn't be. And so, yeah, like, you know, having to explain these things to women who should be able to feel that freedom to understand this from, you know, the day they start their period and get to know what their body is doing for them. You know, it's all happening for you. It's not happening to you. And to remind yourself of that is so empowering.
And I think, because you brought it up, I think actually the whole concept, the whole topic of discharge when it comes to all the way around your menstrual cycle, not just bleeding.
Exactly.
I think it is, before I educate myself, one of the most confusing and worrying and terrifying things as a woman on like those period app trackers. I've used various ones and, you know, you put things in, they'd have options of all the different kinds of like discharge that you can have. I remember sitting there for years being like, oh my God, is there something wrong with me? Like, are there bad ones? Are there good ones? Like, and it, you know, we don't educate girls about this.
You don't. And, you know, it's, and I think also with PCOS, then when you're trying to conceive, you'll go out and spend money on all these like LH sticks and the like ovulation sticks. But how incredible would it be if you could take a minute to really understand and have a look at what your body is doing, because your cervical mucus will tell you so much.
Yes.
And you don't have to spend £6 on Amazon for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So look at what your body is doing. Look at what your body's temperature is saying. I think all of these things matter. And they are just as important for a woman with PCOS to learn about it than a woman without PCOS.
Yes. Women full stop.
Women full stop.
Women full stop.
And we should all feel empowered and we should all feel okay to openly talk about these things. And I know now, you know, obviously my family is South Asian, but now it's been so many years that, you know, my family members too see what I post on social media and we openly talk about these topics at the dinner table. And it's great. And I love it because where I remember I used to feel so nervous to even mention the word the pill when I was younger, now you can talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's those conversations that initially might feel a bit uncomfortable, but they are and should be normal.
Yeah. And that's amazing. I mean, what an impact you had in your family then to bring that.
I hope so. Otherwise,
sounds like it.
Yeah. Or maybe I'm just thinking, am I forcing the conversation at the dinner table? But no, they definitely, everyone's definitely a lot more receptive. I mean, I even have these conversations with my dad and I talk about PCOS and he sees our client transformations come on there and we're like, and it does feel incredible to know that just teaching somebody a few changes that they can make in their lifestyle, things to make them feel better, improving their sleep, doing a bit of self-care before bed, taking certain vitamins that they may have been lacking and didn't know of. These things can change your life for the better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, no, it sounds like you've had such a positive impact, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Living in agonising pain is one of the hardest parts of living with endometriosis. Every single morning, I would wake up with stabbing, twisting, throbbing pain all over my entire body. And the only way I could survive was by taking painkillers all day, every day. If you told me over 10 years ago that natural pain relief would work better than drugs, I'd have thought you were crazy. But then I found BU's pain relief patches. I've had the pleasure of working with the sibling co-founder, Hemang and crew, and I trust them. I trust them to do right by me. I trust them to do right by you. I trust them to do right by all of us. So, if your endometriosis pain is out of control or your periods are ruining your social life, then use discount Alexandra 10 for 10% off BU's products. Yes, you did hear me correctly. That is 10% across all their products. Go and have a look. What's the harm? You can also head to the show's description notes for all the information and all the clickable links. As we move towards your kind of the later years of PCOS, so obviously you've started to make some incredible changes, and am I right in thinking your symptoms have started to improve from the changes that you've made? And we then get to the point of a new phase of your life where you want to be a mum.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that fertility journey? Because
Definitely.
It's such a huge topic with PCOS and such a worry and an emotional turmoil for a lot of women. And I think it's it has a huge effect when I think someone shares that really personal journey, if you're able to.
Yeah, 100%. So when I decided that I wanted to start trying for a baby, I've always known I wanted kids. And hearing upon my diagnosis, I probably wouldn't be able to have kids. And my mum being told clear cut, no, you know, in Hindi, like, oh, she's not going to be able to have kids. That was very, very hard to hear. And it is something that I think subconsciously I might have put in the back of my head.
Okay.
I initially was like, my body has already done so much. My body has gotten my period back naturally. My body is enjoying training and building muscle and feeling my best. So this became another thing which I felt like I could overcome and get to.
Okay. And you had that belief then?
And I had that belief. I had that trust in myself, because why couldn't I do it? Why couldn't I, if I was having a regular period, if I was noticing these changes in my cervical mucus, why could I not go ahead and, you know, get pregnant? So back in 2021 December or 2022, me and my partner, we started trying. And it had gotten we had gotten a few months in and nothing was happening. And I was getting frustrated because my cycle's regular. I understand when I'm ovulating. And naturally, being the partner with PCOS, I was questioning myself.
Of course. So natural, right?
Exactly.
Because you go to internalize and blame yourself before anything else.
Exactly. And then I had a moment where I was like, okay, do you know what? Let's go to a fertility clinic and let's see what's going on. So we went to a fertility clinic, one here in London, and we were seen. I had my scans and everything looked good. They said, you know, where you probably still have PCOS, the syndrome where you have the symptoms of PCOS and they come and go if you're not managing your symptoms well. But overall, in terms of like immature follicles around your ovaries, cysts around your ovaries, we can't see any. So you're all good. And this was quite shocking to me because I was like, okay, well, why am I not getting pregnant? And this is the important part. My partner, he had to work on his sperm health for the next 3 months because he actually flagged up with a few issues because his lifestyle wasn't to the optimum level, which would actually help, you know, the sperm penetrate the egg.
Yes.
So I believe it was his morphology that needed to be worked on.
And just explain what that is.
So I believe that's like the shape of the sperm. So if the shape of the sperm and the head is not like this, you know, you have the tail, it's not going to be able to directly penetrate into the egg. If the head is a little bit lower, you know, it's just going to bounce right off.
Oh, wow.
So sperm, I believe, regenerates every 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe so. I'm a pro at women's health. So it regenerates every 3 months. So you had to do some work there. And the reason why I'm bringing this point up here is because I see this with my clients as well, and I use my own example. You will blame yourself. And of course, that's so easy to do. You've probably been doing it your whole life from the moment you were diagnosed with PCOS, thinking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
You don't need to just look at you. If something is 50-50, just like creating a child, creating, you know, a new human being, which is such a 50-50 process, look at both of you. And the majority of clients that I have said that to, that have now sat down and helped their partners improve their health, whether that be loosening up the boxes, whether that be stopping the sauna so frequently, whether that be, you know, not smoking anymore, or reducing the amount of alcohol, or even incorporating more white meat, more fatty fish, like once a week. You know, these things have such a positive impact on men too, whether that's even improving your sleep or decreasing caffeine.
Yeah.
All those things that I've mentioned, my partner started doing. When he started doing these things, within, I think it was about 3-4 months after that, we ended up getting pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were on holiday in Greece. We got back, and I remember this was so funny. We were on holiday in Greece, and I remember doing a story, and I was like, oh, like my period is late. And then I just started talking about the circadian rhythm and how, like, when you go traveling, sometimes that gets thrown off.
Yeah.
Clearly, that was like a BS post because at that point I was pregnant and I didn't even know. However, I did talk about the changes traveling can bring on. The moment I landed back in the UK, I was like, okay, no, now this is weird because I've managed my PCOS so well. I've had regular periods. Let me go do a pregnancy test. I did a pregnancy test the moment we landed, and I was pregnant.
The moment you landed?
Yeah, like not in the airport, but like
no.
got back home.
I was gonna be like, girl, that is prepared.
That's
like,
dedication.
I've got a pregnancy test in my bag, ready to go at all times.
A quick boots run. But no, yeah, I got home, did a pregnancy test, and then I was pregnant.
So just because I'm so glad that you brought up the 50-50, and actually we need to look at men and women because, again, understandably, when we talk about women's health, obviously the focus is on the conditions and what we're going through. Yeah. But I do think a lot of the earnest for quite a few years has always been on the woman as well. You know, she can't get pregnant.
Yes.
She's not a hospitable environment. She's this, she's that. And you're right, it is 50-50. So, and actually potentially that then makes a very good argument that actually, even if there are no known conditions or symptoms going on, why don't both of you still go and look and do those lifestyle checks and make those adjustments, because you're making new life. So surely you want to be the healthiest you can be before you do that.
Yep, exactly. And also from everything that I've learned, you know, the health of the sperm actually goes ahead and improves the health of the pregnancy, the health of the placenta. And so therefore, you know, as a responsible partner, if you are trying to get pregnant, it is your responsibility to, just as much as your partner with PCOS is trying to take care of her health and manage her lifestyle, it is your responsibility as the male, doesn't matter if she has PCOS or not, it is your responsibility as the male to focus on your sperm health too.
Yeah.
You know, you want to make sure that she has a good pregnancy. And even that, like, so many women put that on themselves. So a lot of the clients that I work with, when they start their TTC program, which is trying to conceive, when they start that program, it's not just them doing it a lot of the time. Their partners are eating the meal plans too.
Yes.
Their partners are incorporating the habits too.
Yeah. And it's so important. And I think a lot of women maybe don't feel or haven't been part of that conversation, or don't feel able to almost give themselves permission to be like, you know what, it's not just me.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We're a team. We're in this together.
Exactly.
We both need to be doing
teamwork.
this. Exactly.
Yeah.
So finding out you're pregnant, having that pregnancy test. Yeah. Talk me through the emotions, because that must have been
that was a lot. I was shaking. I was literally shaking. I was so shocked, but I was so amazed. I was like, oh my God, like, it worked. Yeah. I had an event 2 weeks later. Oh no, sorry, not 2 weeks later. I had an event probably 4 or 5 weeks later. And I remember calling my GP, getting, you know, the scans and everything booked in. Yeah. Hold on, it wasn't 4 or 5 weeks later, it was 12 weeks later. I'll tell you exactly why I know. So I had my scan booked in. And I remember, you know, at this point, this is like my 12-week scan. And I started feeling really good because, you know, I was just entering my second trimester. Yeah. And so I had just run a PCOS event. I didn't share the news yet. I just wanted to see how things were going. And so we went to my first scan, and unfortunately, this pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. So what happened was I went to the scan. We were recording everything on our phones because I wanted to, you know, put it as like an announcement. And this was another experience which I didn't think I was going to have. And I think, you know, you don't think the moment you find out you're pregnant, especially for the first time, you're not thinking of, oh, a miscarriage is possible. You're just thinking, oh my goodness, I'm pregnant. Of course. And you attach all these emotions and you start envisioning a whole life in those first few weeks when you actually haven't even booked an appointment. Yeah. I don't think that's bad at all. I think, you know, envision, you know, embrace and feel all the emotions. But I remember feeling extremely heartbroken at that appointment. I had told my mum at that point. I had told my dad. Actually, I hadn't told my dad. My dad came up to me and he goes to me, "Are you pregnant?" I was like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And he was like, I just sensed it. I was like, oh,
spooky dad
I know,
sense.
I know. So yeah, I was heartbroken. My partner was heartbroken as well, and this
Yeah.
also took a toll on him. I think we also don't talk about how
No.
much a miscarriage can also affect a man who's been
Yeah.
trying to conceive with his partner for a while. Anyway, experienced the miscarriage. I spoke about this on my Instagram as well. Again, another thing, such a taboo topic as a South
Yeah.
Asian woman. You share all your wins and celebrations on social media, but we don't often share the real, raw experiences we go through.
Yeah.
But I decided to talk about this because I knew it was something that so many women experience. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't talk about how many pregnancies do end in miscarriage. I wasn't aware of it either. And in that moment, I felt like I was the only person in the world going through this.
Of course. So isolating.
So
lonely.
So isolating, so lonely. When I spoke about it, I had so many women come up in my DMs, in the comments, talking about their experience. And I remember saying to myself at that point, being like, do you know what? If I had to experience this for somebody else who was made to feel like they had to go through this alone, to just not feel that little bit lonely, then so be it.
Wow. That's that you've got to have a huge heart to be able to
Yeah.
perceive it like that, because it's a loss, isn't it?
It is.
It's a huge loss, and
It is.
I don't know, but I can guess that it was
Yeah.
not just the loss of that child and that future that you had envisioned, but all the emotions, understandably, that you'd attach from your PCOS journey and being
Exactly.
that 10-year-old girl that
Exactly.
got told that she'd never have a child.
Exactly. And I think at that point, I was already talking and sharing about my PCOS journey on my page. And, you know, I was already working with women, helping them on their PCOS journey. And a little part of me actually felt like, oh, I didn't do it. And that was a really hard thing to process, because when, you know, I had to delete this off my SD card. But when we went into the scan and we took the camera in there, it was already recording. So when it was recording, it was like she was scanning over my belly during the miscarriage. Well, when we found out we had the miscarriage, she was scanning, and she was like, "Oh, like, you know, there it is." And we saw the baby, or the embryo, you'd call it. We saw the embryo, and then she was like, "Oh, but let me just check again." And then it was like, okay. Then she was like, "Oh, let me check again. Oh, let me just call someone." And then I was left in so much anticipation. And I remember just looking at my partner being like, something's wrong. And then she was like, "Okay, well, let's do it. Let's insert the camera on the inside. Let's see."
Yeah.
And then again, they didn't tell me anything. They were like, "Okay, go upstairs and wait." So then we then waited upstairs for 2 hours.
What?
In anticipation, to then be told, "Okay, well, because you're 12 weeks, you can either come in like a week's time for a D&C, which is a procedure to basically remove the embryo, or you can wait and it will pass itself." And that, I think, was the hardest for me, because I was just like, what do I do? And then I had these moments of hope. I was like, maybe they're wrong. You know, maybe I should wait. Maybe I shouldn't book this in.
Yeah.
Maybe they're wrong. And it was so odd. I hadn't had any bleeding during this, nothing to indicate that I could have miscarried. I get home from the hospital after that appointment. I go to the toilet and there's blood. And so it was like it already started happening on its own.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'd never experienced childbirth. I'd never experienced that intense of contractions.
Yeah.
So it took about, I think, 6 hours after, I started experiencing contractions, like labor contractions that you would experience.
Oh, God.
I went through that at home. I remember being upstairs. It was my mother-in-law and my partner literally just rubbing my back. I remember doing like deep breathing, being like, you know, and yeah, then I pushed out the embryo, and even though it was this was the size, it was in my hand. And so to experience that was a lot. It then took me about, I think, 6-7 weeks to like process and get my head around, like,
Of course, that is
yeah,
huge. The physical thing you actually had to do.
yeah,
The physical process of
yeah,
losing that baby
Yeah.
and all the emotional toll. I mean, having to sit upstairs in hospital for
Mm.
2 hours
Mm.
to then, and then just the coldness, like you say, of being like, well, you can do this or this, A or
Exactly.
B,
A or
choose.
B, two options. And I remember crying and, you know, it just being such a quick appointment. Like, well, these are your options. And I know, you know, I know and I knew at the time that miscarriage does happen.
Yeah.
However, it was that coldness that I I really did not need at that point. You know, I
No.
needed someone, and even though my partner was there to, like, you know, rub my back and tell me, like, look, we're going to get through this and you will get through this and it will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wanted someone to just give me that reassurance,
Of course.
you know?
Yeah.
And it ended up being to that point where I had to tell myself, and it was like, right, you know, your body has done, and I coach my clients through this who've experienced miscarriage before.
Mm-hmm.
One of my clients, she experienced about 6 miscarriages before she got pregnant, and she now has her son. But she joined our program, she got pregnant, she now has her son, and I see them on Instagram like all the time. Like, I see her posting, and it's the most lovely thing to see. Her name's Carly, and you know, I had to tell myself this as well, where it was like, right, your body knows what it's doing now. You've done it once. Don't lose hope. Like,
Yeah.
you know, just don't lose hope. And I kept saying that to myself. And then when I was mentally ready, we tried again. And actually, in that same, well, not in that same year, but January 2023, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That was a different experience.
I was about to say that nothing can ever, well, you can never repeat the first time of finding out for the first time, of course. But what you went through obviously must have changed that for you quite drastically. So how was it different in terms of emotions, experience?
When I found out I was pregnant for the first time, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I am so happy. I felt this happiness that I have never felt before. I felt like I was on top of the world. When I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, my first words were, oh, fuck.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a bit of a contrast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't think I was, even though I knew that, okay, like this month I might possibly be pregnant. When I saw the pregnancy test, I was like, now I don't know if I'm ready to be pregnant, because what if?
Okay. So now now I don't know if I'm ready for all the options or all the possibilities.
Yes, because I think pregnancy after loss is a different pregnancy than pregnancy.
Yes. Yeah.
Pregnancy after loss, you know, when I found out I was pregnant for the first time, I didn't book any private scans. I didn't do any of that. I was like, okay, yeah, my first scan is at 12 weeks, you know, la, 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 like going on about my day. A bit of nausea here and there and stuff. When I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, I was like, okay, no one talked to me about this. Anyone I told, so my partner, his mum, my mum, I said, okay, I'm telling you some news. Don't feel happy for me. I'm pregnant. No one talked to me about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some very clear boundaries and
Very
messaging
clear
there.
boundaries, because I was like, no one speak to me about it. I don't want to feel like I don't want to feel like I'm pregnant. I don't want all the, you know, excitement around it, because if I didn't again get to that 12-week point, it would be hard for me to process this mentally. So, yeah, everyone was really respectful of just completely ignoring the elephant in the room at all times, which was helpful to me. And I also was very anxious throughout the pregnancy. I think only until I got to 25 weeks pregnant did my anxiety levels drop a little bit, because I could actually feel her moving around. I also had an anterior placenta. I had something called low PAP-A during my pregnancy, which meant, I'm trying to remember now completely, but it was like the blood or the nutrients weren't completely getting to the baby from the placenta. So I was on some blood thinners to help with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of, for a second time after a loss, those, and they happen, you know, a lot of women have various things that just need tweaking or kind of measuring or watching when they're pregnant. But for you after loss, those other things, additional components, you're like, oh, okay, this isn't quite how it should be, or we need to watch this.
Yeah.
understandably, no wonder your anxiety and that fear was kind of there.
Yeah.
Because I imagine it's difficult to get reassurance the second time round.
Exactly, because you just, you just don't know. However, I did book a lot of private scans throughout the pregnancy. Like, I remember being like 6 weeks pregnant, booked a private scan just to check, see if there's a heartbeat. The moment we saw there was a heartbeat, right, yay, win. Then I'd go in maybe like 2 weeks later. It was, I spent quite a bit of money on private scans just to make sure things were okay. But I had to do that for my mental health.
Yes. It was important for you,
It was important
right?
for me, yeah.
So you now have your beautiful daughter, who's how old?
She's going to be 2 in September.
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
nearly 2.
Another phase, so, phase of having symptoms, being a young woman, then the phase of trying to get pregnant and that very emotional process. And the next phase of being a mum and being in motherhood with PCOS.
Yep.
How is that for you? How does one impact the other?
Yeah, so I would say, having my daughter has given me a new lease of life, a new lease of motivation.
Okay.
It's like I gave birth to her, but she in a way gave birth to me.
Oh.
And she's really reminded me how important it is to pour into myself, because it really is that whole analogy of when we're in a plane, you put your mask on first so you can put, your kids' masks on, because how can you take care of them if you don't take care of you? And I shared this on my story because I heard something on Instagram, and it was like, there's this phrase of, I would die for my kids, but, would you live for them? Like, would you manage your hormones for them? Would you, regulate your cycles naturally for them? Would you exercise for them? Would you eat well for them to make sure that you can be at your highest self around them? And I absolutely love that. So she has motivated me to prioritize my training. She has motivated me to, make sure that I am constantly pouring into creating this legacy of helping so many women on their journey. And even with Shanti, I remember when, so Shanti is my herbal tea company.
Yes.
So I remember after I'd given birth to her, I'm big on like herbs and spices and brewing things. But after I gave birth to her, I was really struggling with breastfeeding, and I was pumping around the clock and, trying to manage this insomnia, which you have with PCOS. So I guess PCOS fatigue might like train you up for this.
It's preparation.
It's preparation. But yeah, you have this like level of fatigue, and this child is like completely dependent on you now, and you have to keep them alive, of course.
Yeah, that is number one priority.
That's number one priority. So I remember like I would be there like trying to brew some herbs and stuff to keep my milk supply up, and I'd just be exhausted. So when I decided to start Shanti, like, that was because how much easier would it be if instead of me standing beside the pot brewing my blends, I could just teabag it into it and just pour hot water.
That saves a lot of time, which mums need.
Exactly. And I think also it made me realize how much time actually women with PCOS need. Like we spend, and this was my thought process before as well, I used to spend so much of my day thinking, what am I going to eat for lunch? That's not too bad for my hormones. And because I'd spend so much time thinking about it, by then I'd have a craving and I'd go and grab like 3 bags of crisps.
Yes.
Yeah. Or like we spend so much time just trying to get out of this brain fog and this funk. And it's these little rituals in the day, like, something I did with my daughter was going for like a 10-minute walk. And I'd take her with the pushchair because I knew it would help my hormonal health, which meant that, it would help me get my period back after I gave birth. And I did get my period back after I gave birth.
Amazing.
Right after I'd given birth, actually. So I had a natural delivery with her in the birthing center. So after I'd given birth, I was just laying there on the bed with her on my chest, and someone came in. They were like, right, so what's your choice of contraception? And I was like, no, I don't want any.
That quickly? Oh my God.
They ask you right after you've given birth what contraception you want to go on.
Oh God, it makes me just want to like...
I know.
Cover my head.
And I literally, at that point, I was like, what? Firstly, I don't want to be having sex. I don't want anything near me for the next 6 months.
This is your fault.
Yeah.
Don't come near me.
Don't come near me. I've got stitches down there. Do you think I'm going to be having sex? I don't need contraception right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was point 1. Point 2 was like, I need to be my best self for my daughter. And from experience, I know that, hormones being pumped into my body steers me away from having control to be my highest self.
Yes.
Now, I must preface this by saying I have clients that I work with right now who are on the pill. They are on the pill out of choice, but that is also because alongside being on the pill or any contraception, they do the work.
Yes.
If you do the work, of course, it's, maybe minimally might affect you a little bit or might not affect you at all. Everyone is so different. But I know for me, it did not help me. And that was not something I wanted to go back to. So yeah, it was really like after I gave birth, just getting back on track. It was the smaller habits, trying to get a little bit of rest where I could, really taking time to give myself a little head massage because postpartum hair loss is a thing too. So trying to give myself head massages when she's sleeping, or trying to meal prep my meals. And my partner did help me with a little bit of this. So, just making life easier. Like I used my own program just like I do every single day postpartum, because I was like, I just need the structure there. I need to know what I'm having for breakfast, lunch, snack and dinner, because it will keep my milk supply up. It will allow me to still make sure that I'm, getting a regular cycle, I'm getting enough fiber, protein, and I just feel better. So that's what I did.
Yeah. Amazing. And it, that preparation clearly had a huge difference for you. And I mean, just quickly, when you did say, I'm okay, thank you, I don't want anything, how was the response? Was it quickly accepted? Was it?
It wasn't accepted quickly. Then I had to explain that I work in women's health and I do not want to go on the pill. Thank you. Like I had to be like, yeah.
Hold on. They wouldn't accept an individual's informed decision until you prove that you had credentials in the area.
Yeah. And it was more like, I felt as though, also, I gave birth when I was 24 years old. When anyone sees my age, sometimes they question the knowledge or the experience.
Okay.
And it was like, no. People get pregnant so easily after giving birth. And I understand that. That does happen. However, that's not something that I choose to do. I don't want to have another child, and I will consciously make that decision. Like, I don't want to have another child right now, and I will consciously make that decision postpartum that, hey, firstly, I'm not even going to be having sex for a while. But secondly, like, I just don't want to go on the pill, and I don't need to explain that to anyone.
And secondly, can we remember that there's actually it takes two people to get pregnant.
Exactly.
And actually he could also
get the snip.
Yeah. Well, yes, no more children could get the snip.
Exactly.
And short term, he could just wear protection.
Exactly.
It's really not that difficult.
I went all the way to get the snip. But yeah.
I love that. Just going to be extra sure.
Just extra sure. But yeah, no, you're completely right. Exactly. And I also felt like that was so much after you've just given birth. Like,
straight
that's
after.
not the conversation you want to be having. And actually, I remember seeing my birth plan, or the birth plan that was given to me, and that was actually an option as well. Like, what contraception would you like post-birth? And I didn't tick anything because I didn't want any, but I did find that did throw me off quite a little bit.
Understandably. Okay, wow. I really want to hear about your entrepreneurial bits as well, because they're a huge part of what you do. So please tell me about Fitness with Keisha, the app.
Yes.
Tell me what happens, what you do, who's it for.
Yeah, so I've got an app, and it's the PCOS coaching app, as I like to call it. So when we have anyone who joins our program, we get to know a little bit about them. So they'll fill out a questionnaire, but depending on which program they go for, they get assigned to a coach. So it will either be one of our incredible coaches or it will be me. I've been working with our coaches for a long time, and we're a very close-knit, small women-run business. So we have team meetings on a regular basis. So I know who's being worked, who's working with who. Yeah. When someone starts, based on, where they're at in their journey, what symptoms they're experiencing, what their goals are, what their lifestyle is, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a stay-at-home mum, no matter what you do in life, we want to create a plan that works for you. So we'll create some meals, some workouts, not just one, well, not just one breakfast that you have to stick to for 4 weeks, but you have a whole range of options. And we'll create you a workout plan based on movement that you enjoy, but also things that are going to help you build sufficient muscle.
Okay.
I was saying this to a client, but the changes that you make now on your journey, they're not just going to help you on your PCOS journey. They will help you through different aspects of life. Whether or not you choose to have kids, they will help you through that area. Whether when you get through to like the menopause, perimenopause stage, it will help you in that area, even in old age. So it's the habits you build now. So we help create programs for that. You have a chat function. in which you can directly speak to your coach. You can send through videos of how you're training. We can comment on your form.
Yeah.
You can ask about like certain symptoms that you're experiencing. And once a month, you can also have a phone call with your coach. If you work with me, then you're directly speaking to me. I tend to have video calls and phone calls with my clients every single day. I mean, I've got one in a little bit, just to see how they're finding things, like see if there's anything I can do to support them. And I think this is where this is what women with PCOS need. Women with PCOS need someone who's going to hear them out, understand them, and then give them constructive, productive advice that they can apply.
Yeah.
And then we also have a groups area in the app. So you're able to speak to other clients, other women on their PCOS journey, see what, what they've done so well this week, see what they're struggling in, see what their meals are looking like, just to get some inspo if you need it. And of course, you can track your workouts and stuff in there as well based on the plans we give you. And then every single week you get a PCOS lesson. So it's in an in-depth video based on many different topics, whether that's regulating your periods or improving acne with PCOS, something that I've done, whether it's contraception and PCOS. There's so much information. Meditations that will help you lower your stress levels. And with each client, depending on their journey, we'll create them habits as well that they can stack on over time, whether that's improving your steps or improving your sleep quality, or, if you're trying to conceive, making sure you're getting in the right vitamins as well. So there's so much that goes into it. So that's the side of the Fitness with Keisha side of things.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds amazing. And I think what really stands out for me hearing you describe it is it feels like it is a much more complex and sophisticated version of holding someone's hand and being there for them and just supporting them through that whole journey of the good, the bad, everything in between, the roller coaster ride that can happen when you're trying to make changes and you're trying to change your lifestyle. So it sounds like a really beautiful journey you take them through, and that you've helped a lot of women, which is just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and truly, every single morning I wake up and I just feel blessed to do what I do. When we get the clients who drop messages and they're like, "Oh my God, I've finally got my pregnancy test, my positive pregnancy test." We had a client who had been trying to conceive for ages, and she started working with us, and 4 months later, she got her big fat positive pregnancy test.
Wow.
So it's just so incredible to see. Or like clients who've not had. I've had a client, she hadn't had a period in 3 years, and I was like, firstly, I really hope that you're pushing for scans and blood tests and things like that with your doctors, but just changing some things in her lifestyle. She now has a regular 30-day cycle.
Amazing.
Literally one by one. And she actually went on to get pregnant, to have her baby. She lives in Australia.
Oh, wow. Incredible. I bet there are so many stories like
So
that
many.
as well.
I could go on for like 5 hours.
Speaking of, as we kind of come to the end of the conversation, I could also talk to you through literally the whole day.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the world of PCOS, and if it extends to healthcare, women's healthcare as well, and obviously pregnancy and prenatal and postnatal, because you've been through that and you've experienced that, what would you like the future of PCOS and then the others to look like and move to?
I would love there to be a space where the holistic side of things and medicine works really well together.
Okay.
I feel like there's space for both things, but there needs to be a space to listen. I think listening and actually hearing people out and actually being able to understand what's going on in someone's journey makes a massive difference. It can make such a big difference to the advice that you give.
Yeah.
Someone could be going through certain changes in their career, and based off of that, you could give them different advice, and maybe not a medicinal option, but first start with something that might improve their stress levels, their time management skills, which will then allow them to implement better habits, which then, maybe down the line, you might need a bit of medicine, but maybe not too much.
Yeah.
And I really hope the future of women's health looks like a space where medicine, and the holistic side of things being training, being, food, nutrition, and improving your sleep, meditation. I really wish for it to coexist.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I completely agree. I really hope those two worlds can collide in a really positive, beautiful way. You've been amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for just sharing everything, all the different parts of your journey. There was one question I have for you that I have for all my guests. If younger Keisha is sat here, whether she is 10, 15, whatever age you want to pick, and she sat right there on the sofa with you, what would you like to say to her, whether it's advice or just something from the heart?
What would I say to her? I'd just say everything that happens in your life, remind yourself that it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And if you think with that perspective, you will always find a way to grow from the space that you're in.
Wow. That is beautifully put as well.
Thank you.
That is amazing advice. And I think there's a lot of young women that will benefit from hearing that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's
Thank
been
you
a pleasure.
so much. I've loved this.
Amazing. I loved our girl chat this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to hit the follow button wherever you're listening. To find out more about us or today's guest, then head to the show notes. Until next time, I'm Alexandra, and remember, it's not just a period.